Trump is a fascist with an enemies list. Kamala Harris is a dedicated public servant with a to-do list. You'd think the choice would be clear to everyone. Welcome to MOMocrats MOMochat, part of the Demcast family of podcasts. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills, here with Karoli and Aliza Worthington of cricksandliars.com. We're all twinsies today with our cats.
We're all wearing our uniform.
And then
cats.
I am such a cat lady. This one keeps jumping on the kitchen counter.
Uh-oh.
It's a bad little girl.
Yeah. Naughty
girls.
girls.
I have one who does that and one who doesn't, and I don't know why. I don't know what motivates
I have no cats, but I like them.
Yeah.
And I get cat food for my dad's neighborhood cats so he can feed them.
Yeah, I don't know what motivates one to, but then that other one that doesn't get on the counters gets out of the house. So I just, who knows?
And you have no idea what they're up to when you're not home unless you've got cams, you know, with an eye on them.
Kind of like Republicans.
Are you a Republican?
I want to know what Republicans do in
their
home.
Republican little girl? She goes, no, I would never be a Republican. They don't like me.
Right, I know.
They don't like your mommy either.
No, they don't.
All right.
They don't.
So
a lot of talk about cats, kind of to distract us from talking about all the things that are keeping us up at night in this election. My God, there should be no reason for these polls to be so close, except for the fact they're flooding the zone.
Yeah, ignore the polls.
Yeah, I mean, they're Republican run.
Yeah, I mean, at this point ignore the polls because people are already voting for starters, right? So
I voted 3 weeks ago.
It kind of renders the polls, irrelevant at this point. And also, yes, there are some that are flooding the zone. All of the aggregators insist that they're adjusting for that, blah blah blah. But the fact of the matter is that we don't know. These polls aren't telling us anything. So all they're doing is making people stressed out and feeding the horse race narrative, which is not the narrative that needs to be fed. The narrative that needs to be fed is this is an election where there's two choices, fascism or freedom. Pick one. Which one are you going to pick?
And and this week we had it confirmed exactly how fascist Donald Trump and his team are.
Right. And they're very fascist.
John Kelly actually finally went on the record, and we could hear his voice in that New York Times interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's interesting that they actually recorded his voice saying that so that it's like he didn't have to go on interviews to say it, and he didn't have to do any media hits to say it. It's said, and it can be played anywhere.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is really important.
Yeah. And it's chilling. It is chilling to know that we had a president who thought Hitler did good things.
Right.
But Donald Trump says John Kelly's dumb.
He says Kamala's dumb too, so figure that out, right?
Individual, please.
I mean, the stuff that he says about people being dumb is so stupid. I can hardly stand it. Honestly, I mean, calling Kamala Harris, a woman who has been educated gone to college, gone to law school, passed the bar in California, which is not easy to do.
Yeah, like one of
and
the
everything
hardest.
and it has served as a dedicated public servant for decades now. To call her dumb is just outrageous.
That's the level of his vocabulary, and it's the level of his intellect. It's
in the meantime, he runs away from interviews that are not Fox.
Right.
He runs away from, he wouldn't do another debate. Last night, Kamala Harris did a town hall. That was supposed to be the second debate, but he ended up declining to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, well, come do a town hall. And he wouldn't come do the town hall either.
Yep.
And so Kamala had 90 minutes or so to herself.
Sure.
And she used it well.
She does.
She did.
It was so good. I mean, all this week, I'm glad MSNBC was televising her sit downs with Liz Cheney in the different swing states that they were visiting. And each one was like a completely different, moderated discussion. And again, she is agile. She is smart.
Yep.
She is considered. She says things. I mean, even last night in the town hall, when she had that realtor woman, who it turns out is a registered Republican.
I knew it.
Okay, so I missed this. I was at an event last night.
Okay, so there was a town hall last night.
I mean, okay.
And this woman gets up and she's introduced as someone who was widowed a year ago and is raising two girls as a single mom right now.
Okay.
And she is struggling to make ends meet.
Okay.
And they flash what she is. She's a realtor.
Okay.
And, I worked for the Realtors Association in California, and they are 90% Republican. I mean, at least 40 years ago when I worked for them, that's what they did. So, I mean, and she gets up, she is like reading off talking points about how Kamala Harris's policies are going to destroy the economy, basically.
Tax policies, yeah.
Yeah. Why, concerned about the poor people making over $400,000 a year who would be taxed higher.
Oh my God. This is what she's concerned
about. We already
about,
have a progressive tax system, she says.
Yeah.
What was that, Karoli?
She said, we already have a progressive tax system, so those higher earners are getting taxed already. And I'm thinking to myself, gag.
How much higher those brackets were before, how much more they took,
Right. Listen, when you have people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel out there just like throwing $1 million at people because they can and everything, and they're not paying enough in taxes. I mean, when you have billionaires, they're not paying enough in taxes.
You can give people $1 million a day as a stunt. Although that's probably going to stop now that he's gotten his little.
I was going to say, you kind of can't. You kind of can't give people $1 million for the reason for that stunt. You can't do that to get people to vote. That's illegal. But
Imagine if he took some of that fortune and helped combat homelessness.
Oh, why would he do that?
Wouldn't that be wonderful? Right?
Why do that? They're probably homeless because it's their fault, right? I mean, he's not going to do that.
Of course not.
I mean, and to be clear, for anybody who's just hearing this for the first time, that's not what I think. I'm just making fun of people who think that way. But that's I just find it really insane that a woman, a recent widow with 2 young kids, that's her concern? The people who make over $400,000?
That was her question.
That's her concern. So how did Kamala answer
she didn't even say the people make over $400,000. She just said we already have a graduated tax system. Tax system. Why do you want to put more taxes on people?
Right. And the nuts and bolts of the answer to that is obviously that there's tax loopholes that the people over 400,000 can afford, and take, Trump, who paid $750 in taxes 1 year, whatever. She didn't go that far with it, but I mean, she basically just said, your premise, in a nice way, your premise is wrong.
Yeah. And
went from there. But the interesting thing to me wasn't really that question and answer in terms of the town hall. The interesting thing to me was, as soon as that town hall was done, Kamala made a beeline for that woman. And went over there and was talking to her for like another 5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that she said in her response was to express sympathy for that woman's loss.
Yeah, sorry for her loss.
And saw her as a complete person. And I'm sure that she could see right through her even better than we could, that this was a Republican plant. But she went immediately to her humanity.
Yeah.
And
it wouldn't surprise me if that was a genuine response from Kamala Harris, because she genuinely empathizes with people who disagree with her, if it, on matters that are bipartisan, like widowhood.
Yeah.
We all experience loss. And in that respect, she and Joe Biden are very
Really good.
They're very simpatico.
Right.
I mean,
and after the town hall, the woman was saying that she was very impressed with Harris, probably because she made that personal connection and saw her as a human being.
Yeah,
and
that's also probably why Kamala Harris. I'll bet it's part of why Kamala Harris made a beeline for her, because she knew that all the pundits were going to want to talk to that audience member, you know.
So, and interestingly, she didn't stop with that woman. She was talking at least for 15 or 20 minutes to the other people in the audience too.
Right.
So she was definitely, you know, not done when he went off the air. So they go off the air and they show her talking to these people, and they put Dana Bash on. It starts by saying, and this is all I can tell you about what she said, because I had to turn it off. It was so stupid. You had this 90-minute, really strong town hall, really strong. I mean, the first question out of the box was whether she thought Trump was a fascist.
Donald Trump at the lead.
You've quoted General Milley calling Donald Trump a fascist. You yourself have not used that word to describe him. Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted. Again, look at their careers. These are not people, with the exception, I think, of only Mike Pence. These were not politicians. These are career people who have served in the highest roles in national security, who have served as generals in our military, who are highly respected. Talking about the person who would be commander-in-chief, not to mention what we know and what they've told us about how he talks about the military.
So after that moment, right, there were lots of questions. There were questions about the economy. There was questions about taxes. There was questions about all kinds of things. And she answered them, and she was super strong and, you know, not at all put off. And even though Anderson Cooper like beat her up over the fact that the bill that she supported, the bipartisan bill, had funding for a wall. It had $650 million funding for a wall.
Yeah.
And he was like,
J'accuse. You've flip-flopped. J'accuse.
Yeah. It was like, and her whole point was, it's a bipartisan bill.
Yeah.
You know, there's stuff in there I wouldn't put in there, but it's in there, and we have to work in a bipartisan manner, and we have to do these things, which was, I thought, one of her strongest answers overall.
Yeah, of course there's going to be stuff in it I don't like.
Yeah.
And that's the way Congress works, you know?
Right? It's like a little civics lesson. Hello, people. When you work with a bipartisan group of people, you get stuff you don't like in it.
But hopefully there's enough that you do like, that you walk away feeling like you've made some progress.
Right.
You've tackled an issue. You've solved a problem, which is the other thing that she was emphasizing, that she...
And so...
And immigration is a problem.
Right. And part of why it's a problem is because a lot of people came to the border requesting asylum, and we don't have enough asylum judges. So it takes years before they ever get heard. In the meantime, they like leave their passport with the Border Patrol, and they go to family or relatives or whatever. There's a great article on ProPublica about a sheriff and an immigrant, basically in Wisconsin. And I urge everybody, just go, you can find it. It's The Sheriff and the Immigrant. It's the title of it. And maybe we can put it on the Facebook page too. But it is, the thing about this article is that there are no bad guys.
Yeah.
The sheriff's not a bad guy, and neither is the immigrant. But you really get the story from both sides, you know, and you realize that, there's problems that need to be fixed. And unfortunately, the Republicans are making hay out of this story too, which is sad.
Right. And that's why I even have trouble with saying immigration is a problem. Because too many people hear immigrants are a problem.
You're right. It's the immigration.
And the thing is, what I feel like it's important to take care to say with our own language is, you know, there are issues with the system of immigration
Yes.
right now that need fixing.
Yes.
So that people who want and deserve to be here can be here. There's, you know, people from other countries who want to come and be here. That's not a problem to me. I don't think it's a problem if people who are in war-torn countries or poverty-stricken countries or crime-ridden parts of other parts of the world who see our country as a place to, you know, come and have a chance at a good life. That's not a problem for me. The problem is with the way we, you know, our processing system, the immigration, you know, system right now. And that's, you know, and I feel like, especially given, you know, the outsized venom and the alarming nature of how the other side is speaking about immigrants. I think it's, you know, we should try our best to, I'm not like, this is not at you, Karoli, or anything, but I'm just speaking to all of us in general. Like, you know, I can see Kamala Harris even saying, yes, immigration is a problem. And I don't like that. Like, I would rather she say, we love immigrants. We need to make sure that the way they come into this country is more efficient.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that the way they come into this country is safe. And we need, you know, and, you know, we had a way to do that. And because Donald Trump, we had a bipartisan way to do that.
And that's,
you know, like, so
what she said. She never said immigration was a problem. She said, you know, we have a broken immigration system.
Yeah.
She never, she picks her words much more carefully than you and I and Karoli do.
Yeah.
You know?
And the thing is that, you know, it's worth knowing a little history. We didn't really actually have an immigration system until the 20th century.
I know.
Anybody could come here.
When our ancestors, most of our ancestors arrived, there was nothing. When Trump's ancestors arrived,
yeah,
you know, there was nothing to keep them out.
Right. They were white.
Yeah.
So it was when the brown people started coming that they decided they needed a system.
I think it was when the Chinese. I think it was. It was
what?
I think you know, it started with the Chinese exclusion.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And but I mean, so just a little bit of history matters a lot because people think that this country always barred immigration or monitored it.
We welcomed them. We were trying to build our population.
Who do you think built the railroads? I mean, it was the Irish that built the you know.
That's right.
So yeah. Anyway.
Well, and you know, then if you go back further, we have the forced immigration of slavery. So
right. Well, yeah, there's that too, and nobody was
we were cool
complaining
with that.
about that.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with this. It's like, yes, our system is broken, but maybe it's because we have a shitty system altogether. I mean, maybe we should work on starting with welcoming people into the country, you know, and yes, maybe screening them because you don't want to have MS-13 or anything.
But we do that with everybody, and we should do that with everybody. I mean,
and you don't want to but turn people away. Like this story really grabbed my heart because these were Nicaragua immigrants who came to escape political oppression. And the guy that they specifically zero in on had 35 acres and was growing coffee, right? I mean, when we buy our coffee from these Latin American countries or Central American countries, as Nicaragua is, then, you know, those are the farmers that are doing it, and he couldn't make a living at it anymore. So he came here because he was being extorted. It spent $20,000 to get here with the meal. So, I mean, I don't want to tell you the whole story. It is a story that everybody should read because it balances.
The Sheriff and the Immigrant.
Yeah, on ProPublica, and it balances our society needs, right? Like law enforcement needs and everything with their needs, the immigrant needs. And so it's a very, I think, nuanced and important article to read. So
I'm going to read it
anyway,
this weekend.
That's my reading recommendation of the day. But I mean, going back to the Harris town hall, she was really good on every issue. And it was, yes, she had talking points, obviously. And if you pushed her on that, she'd say, yes, I call that discipline. Right.
Which I love.
Not going off message. You know, she's not out there ranting about Arnold Palmer's penis, for God's sake, you know, and so, you know, she did great. She did great. And it was everything that CNN tried to do afterwards to tear her down. But hopefully everybody just turned it off.
To catch her during that. They had
Anderson Cooper was
question first, followed right up with a pro-Israeli person.
Yeah, that was another moment.
They're trying to get her in a gotcha to contradict herself. You know, she was good.
She was good. I thought she handled both of them great. I mean, she said with no apologies, you know, that there should be a two-state solution, that there should be an immediate end to the war in Gaza now that the
hostages need to come home.
Yeah. And, you know, she did all the things, but, you know, being a candidate for president doesn't mean you get to do those things.
Yeah.
Right.
So I am starting to feel like the protesters that are showing up are definitely meant to be there. They're not. How do I say this?
Entirely organic.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. I don't think they've ever been.
I think part of it is organic.
I think some of the college students have been stirred in that direction, and I think some of the Muslims have too. In their communities and everything. So I mean, I can understand being a Muslim and seeing their Gaza devastated, like even, and they could not agree with what Hamas did, but still seeing Gaza devastated and being upset by that.
I don't like hearing that. I don't like seeing it.
I follow some Palestinians and some Muslims too. Who,
Netanyahu and his perpetration of the war and refusal to look for a way to stop the killing. Is
right. Well, and so they should, this is the thing. I would like them to listen to Trump say over and over again that he's talking to Bibi every day and Bibi's not listening to Biden.
Right.
I mean,
why doesn't that get brought up more often?
Right.
By our mainstream media.
It is a Logan Act violation, but nobody enforces the Logan Act.
Is it a crime or is it just a violation of
I don't know
protocol or what is it?
I mean, you think about what Nixon did in Vietnam back in the 70s, right? And to tank his opponent, right? And this is no different. This is no different at all.
Nope.
Than that. In fact, it's more.
Reagan did. You know, where the hostages that destroyed.
Yeah, Reagan did it too to Carter.
Yeah. Oh man, that one made me the maddest.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially because I had an uncle in the diplomatic corps who was in that region, and Reagan's over there messing with it.
So how does Netanyahu not see the advantage that Kamala Harris has over Trump right now? Like, I just feel, maybe I feel more secure than I should in the inevitability of her winning. And I really do. I feel like the majority of people who are going to vote this time around are going to vote for Harris.
Well, I mean, look at it logically. You know, Harris has raised $1 billion. We've got the advantage in money. We've got the advantage in enthusiasm. We have the advantage in a candidate who is likable, We
So my
have
question
the
is, how does
advantage in seeing all of these Republicans crossing over.
how does Netanyahu not see that?
Netanyahu is betting on Trump because Trump's going to let him do whatever the fuck he wants.
I know, but Netanyahu doesn't live in a fantasy dream world like Trump does. Netanyahu is, I mean, he may be as fascist.
I think he does.
You think, does he?
Yeah.
I think he does. I think that's why he's doing what he's doing. I think
all of these right wingers are working together around the world.
So you think that
America
Netanyahu
goes
believes
fascist.
that Trump is going to win? All right.
Well, so going back though to Aliza,
the
leaving
Trump
Netanyahu behind and going back to your sense that Kamala Harris has all the
momentum.
I mean, I believe that I'm not unrealistic to think that. I guess my interpretation, though, was different from yours about Netanyahu. I mean, I feel like I feel like his whole resistance to, any attempt at peace in Gaza was because he felt certain Trump was going to win and Trump was going to let him do whatever he wanted. Mm-hmm. And that he was holding out for the election before he made a decision on what he was going to do. But now that Sinwar is dead and, Hamas is, in tatters, and to me, it looks pretty inevitable that Harris is going to win. Is Netanyahu that out of touch with reality that he thinks Trump still has a chance? Like, is that feeding his resistance to, I'm still focused on Israel. In this question, I'm asking about Israel right now and Netanyahu. And do you guys still think, does he not realize that he's not going to have an easier time with Kamala Harris than he will with
he's trying to help Trump win.
No, I understand that, but does he not think
it's very close? And he can also see that we could lose Michigan if enough Muslims sit out the election or vote for Trump.
Michael Moore was on the other day on that regard, and he said there are other ways to make up that.
There are, but Netanyahu is casting his bet with Trump because he's got nothing to lose by doing that.
Right. Okay. He doesn't have anything to gain by acknowledging that Kamala Harris could win. He have had enough interaction that he is either discounting her or he's just doing his damnedest to make sure that she loses, one or the other, or both. I don't know. But the thing is that if you zoom out to use an Axios phrase, if you zoom out to a larger perspective, leaving Bibi behind, I do think he's kind of deluded in this regard or desperate, right? I mean, he's trying to keep himself out of jail too,
right,
and everything. So he's and we have kind of this global fascist movement going on right now. So
they're all trying to affect this election.
So if you zoom out and you look, I want to address what you were saying about are you live in a bubble or what, are you? But I think you're right to say that the momentum and the leading indicators are all in our favor. I feel a lot like there's being because the horse race narrative is so important to media that they're really flogging it. And as an example of what I'm talking about, we hear Trump's small donors are dried up. They're not anywhere close to what hers are, right? He's pretty much relying on the billionaires at this point, which means he's going to be owned by them.
Yeah.
Right. Which we already knew.
Right.
Then, but she's raising money like crazy. Right. And she's, the one she's got the Republicans, like you pointed out.
Yeah.
She's the enthusiasm is all on our side right now. And it's huge. I mean, we can't take anything from early voting. I understand that because you don't know who's voting for whom. But in that regard, the turnout, and I've always said, and you've said, and we've all said, that if it's a turnout election, we win. If we turn out, right? Turnout is 3 times what it's been.
Yeah. I saw an interesting chart yesterday, and I didn't have time to verify it. So take it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than looking at party affiliation, they looked at gender. And
I saw that too.
Yeah, women had voted. There were 1 million more women than men.
Yeah.
So far voted.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
and
let's see if white women figured it out this time around.
Well, or if enough white women figured it out, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, again, if you frame it right? If you say it's freedom or it's fascism, that's the frame. There's no other frame.
Yep.
And don't forget Dobbs.
Oh yeah,
That's
no, of course not.
And again, freedom versus fascism. That's Dobbs.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the same box, because it is, telling over half the population what they can do with their body, what they can't do with their body, and making criminals out of them. Right. And subservient.
Right.
So it's absolutely that.
Did you guys see only because this came across my timeline, not because I look at New York Times anymore, because I just can't stomach that. But they had a video story of a doctor who had performed an abortion on a 12-year-old girl who had been raped. Did you guys see this? It was about a doctor driving in her car, side cam. She was being filmed, and she was telling the story about how she no longer she fled the state that she was practicing in because of because of the anti-abortion laws in her state. But it was apparently still legal in cases of rape and incest. But if you want to talk about freedom versus fascism, she performed the abortion on a 12-year-old girl who had been raped. And she had to call and report to some board or to some police station. She had to report to law enforcement that she performed an abortion. Maybe it was because and I don't know, I didn't get the background if it was because she performed the abortion or because the patient had been raped. I'm not exactly sure. But the police officer said, and how old was the mother? And the doctor said, you mean the 12-year-old girl who had been raped? How old, the victim who had been raped, how old, the child who had been raped, not the mother, the child who had been raped. How old was she? And the doctor was like, and the police officer was like, yeah. You know what I mean? I'm just asking the questions that are on the screen, And the doctor answered, she was 12. The victim who had been raped was 12. And then the police asked some other questions like, what was the child's race? What was their ethnicity? And other things that the doctor found invasive and irrelevant. And she pushed back on answering, and the police officer basically insisted that she had to answer and kind of was like, lady, can you just answer the questions? I'm just doing my job here. These are the prompts on the screen, and then the police officer started asking her questions about herself, like what was her name? What is her, of course she's a doctor. What is her, and then started asking what is her age? What is her race?
Oh, come on.
And she said, I don't see why you need to know the answers to these questions. What
state was this?
Huh?
What state was this?
I'm not sure. I just saw the video and I didn't, and it was in the New York Times, and I want to find it so that I can learn, actually read the story. And the thing is that she was telling the story, and she said when she was done making the report, she asked for a report number. She said, "Are you going to give me? Do you have a report number for me?" And he said, "No, we don't have a report number. We don't have anything." And she was like, "Okay," and she hung up. And then she said, either the next day or a few hours later, she was driving and she got a phone call on her cell phone from the police precinct or department, who said, "Oh, we're sorry, we forgot to give you the report number." And I'm like, "Forgot? You said there wasn't one." And she was like, and we wanted to give you the report number for the, and she said, "The thing is, I didn't give them my cell phone number.
Oh.
I called from my office.
Right.
They had my office number.
Right.
I didn't give them. How did they get my cell phone number?"
Because they're the police.
And she was like, I can't, like the big brother feeling, the fascism is just, it's chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
And
that's what it would be like.
This is what it would be like everywhere if they signed a national abortion ban. If Republicans got the Senate and Republicans got the White House.
Yeah. It wouldn't just be abortion, it would be everything else. I just read an article today about the fact that for decades, a supposed gun nonprofit has been collecting information on all the gun owners.
Yes, that's right.
Everything. So while they're fighting a reasonable national database of gun owners, they're building a giant one of their own. What the hell?
Yep. Yeah, I'll have to ask some of my gun owner friends how they feel about that.
Yeah.
So and, also they people underestimate or disregard the number of Democrats who own guns.
Yeah, definitely.
Plenty of Democrats own guns either because they hunt or because they're scared, and they for self-protective reasons. And there's a guy on Twitter who goes by the name of Jack Hopkins.
Oh yeah, I know. Yes, I follow him.
I don't know what to think about what he's saying, but he's like, everybody, like, go out and get guns, people, because they're coming for us liberals, And I'm like, I don't know if I really need to. He seems kind of alarmist, and I don't know if he falls into the fabulous sort of category, or I don't know. What do you think, Donna? Like, I mean,
well, I take him with a grain of salt.
That's what I figured.
I think you have to.
That's what everybody was doing on the thread, I just don't know anything about his background or who he is.
It's a pseudonym.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would. I don't want to get too far into the gun thing, but it's you're right. There are lots of Democrats who own guns. Kamala Harris being one.
Yeah, and people are going to get, when they hear about things like what you're talking about, Karoli, that like they're building this database, they're building their own database. What fucking hypocrites!
Exactly.
Well, there's a difference between the NRA and the government.
Well, I mean, I remember seeing this debate 30, 40 years ago, right? Yeah. When Clinton was in office and they were passing some reasonable gun laws, including an assault weapons ban. Yeah. And they wanted a database at that time. They wanted a database of gun registrations, just basic gun registrations. Yeah. So that, and the reason for that, a national database, was so that if you've got somebody who had a bunch of guns, they were either registered or they won't. You could find them.
Right.
Right.
God forbid law enforcement have that information.
Right. And this whole time,
they knew this doctor's cell phone number, and they wanted to know her race and her cell phone number.
Wow.
I mean, who performed an abortion on a rape victim, a child.
Well, I mean, this is part of how they do things. They want to make everything so difficult. So, okay, we'll make exceptions for rape and incest, right? And then, but the doctor then has to make a determination. Well, how do you decide that this child was raped? I mean, it's a 12-year-old child. Of course it was, she was raped. And, you know, or whatever. And that makes it difficult for doctors. And then there's this report that they have to make, as you just detailed, in some states. And it's ridiculous. That's why it sounds like Texas or something.
I want to go look it up. But it was in the New York Times, and it was a video that, you know, you can recognize it when you see it. It's a side view. She's driving in her car, and she's telling this story about why she's no longer in the state that she was practicing.
Yeah.
You know, I just saw it yesterday. It was pretty recent.
So not to change the topic too much, but
sorry.
I know we're running out of time here, and I want to make sure that that we all applaud the fact that Ruby Freeman and Shamos have been, basically the court has ordered that they get to take possession of Rudy's assets, including his apartment in New York. And his Mercedes that used to be owned by Lauren Bacall.
Right. And his collection of luxury watches.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love it.
And all that. So that's just delicious.
Definitely in the find out part.
Are they moving on up to the east side?
Yeah, exactly. So that's delicious. And
good for
them. And then the other thing that's cool is watching how the campaign, the Harris campaign, going back to politics and not legal for a minute, is really just putting on the jets in these last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Donna, your kitty is on.
She's on the dining room table. I saw. All right,
Donna, it's fruitless. It is fruitless. She just let her stay there.
Oh my goodness.
She's a bad little girl.
She is a naughty girl.
But
anyway, I mean, they're putting on the jets. So today she's Kamala's in Atlanta. She's going to do a rally with Bruce Springsteen. A couple of days ago. And Obama. Yeah, he's going to be in Atlanta too.
Yeah, cool.
And he was in Wisconsin and Michigan 2 days ago. Wisconsin with Tim Walz, and Tim Walz was
he was so good. And we have a little clip of that. A short
Elon's on that stage, jumping around, skipping like a dipshit on these things. You know it. Think about it. Think about that. That guy is literally the richest man in the world, spending millions of dollars to help Donald Trump buy an election. Now look, they're saying the quiet parts out loud now because Donald Trump has already promised that he would put Elon in charge of government regulations that oversee the businesses that Elon runs. That's a hell of a buy. He could spend billions to make more than 10 billion on the back end. So in other words, Donald Trump, in front of the eyes of the American public, is promising corruption. That's what he's promising you.
Elon is a dipshit. And it's great that Tim Walz said so. And
like a dipshit.
Elon is a dipshit and stupid to boot, you know, handing out $1 million bribes to people who registered to vote and agree with the First and Second Amendment is, you know, like, what the hell? Buying votes is what that is. It's buying votes. Even if it's only one vote and it's $1 million, it's still buying votes.
Yeah.
And that proves how stupid he is, because he probably could have handed out $100 bills to everybody.
Weren't they paying people to sign the petition?
Yeah, they were paying $47 for people to sign the petition. And that actually was not illegal.
Right.
But then he switched to this, you know,
sweeten the
pot. The petition, you get
you're in a lottery to win $1 million a day.
Splash
year. So today
he's such an attention whore, Elon.
Yes.
And that's why I suspect that's what why he went for that, because, you know, $47 for signing a petition, while it's legal, it's also not as sexy as giving away $1 million. And he, ooh, what's going to get me the most attention?
Yeah.
And he,
so he gave away what, $2 million, $3 million, and then the DOJ sent out a firm letter saying, you know, pointing out this is what happens if you do this, and it's, you know, $10,000 fine or 5 years in prison or both.
Yeah.
I mean, because the $10,000 fine I don't think would deter him, but 5 years in prison might.
Yeah.
So is he, since there's like on camera evidence that he did this, are they going to actually charge him with anything?
They've opened an investigation.
Yeah. Okay. And they sent
charges don't get brought. Yeah, it's not the way it works. Charges don't get brought.
Right. They sent a letter, so we'll see. So he's.
And what does an investigation get opened into the person who accepted the money as well?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. They haven't broken the law.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's what.
Well, they didn't sign a petition and accept a check.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think so. So that's interesting. Anyway, going back to the Harris campaign. So today is Obama and Springsteen in Atlanta.
When is that?
Tomorrow, I think, is Houston, where she's going, and I've heard
right now, it's
yeah. I mean, I haven't confirmed, but I've seen that Beyonce may be at the Houston concert.
Yeah.
Or the Houston rally, because that's her home base. So we'll see.
But in the meantime, if you look at these daily press releases that the campaign sends to let you know where everyone is. They are crisscrossing the country. You've got Harris going all over the place. You've got Walz going over the place. You've got Doug Emhoff. You've got Gwen Walz. And then you've got surrogates in
Joe
all.
Biden.
You've got Joe Biden. You've got Gabby Giffords. You've got, you know.
I think Mark Kelly is going to be with her in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Arizona is big. Now the campaigns are all the outside groups in California are organizing, canvassing in Arizona and Nevada this weekend.
Yep.
And so they're really trying to get, you know.
And Nevada is the one that needs it more than Arizona at this point, I think. But I mean, that's happening, and that's great. And like you said, they've got surrogates going all over the place, and you know, they're really revving everybody up and getting it going.
I am really like focused also on the Senate.
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's part of why these are great, that they're doing all this, because they're lifting up the people that are running in these states for the Senate.
Right.
And not lifting them up in the states where it would be a bad idea. So they're letting Tester on his own. I mean, they're giving Tester money, but they're leaving him on his own. And that's a good thing, because any Democratic backing would just be, it would be hard. That's all. It would make it harder for him. So, and same with Ohio and Sherrod Brown. They're leaving that and letting him do it. And, you know, a lot of people are complaining about that. Katrina Christensen had her third debate in North Dakota, and it went well.
Good.
And she's got a lot of momentum behind her. I don't know. We'll see. Huh?
Wouldn't that be something if
that would be
catches the mainstream media by surprise?
Well, and Dan Osborne in Nebraska too.
Yeah.
That could happen as well.
Hearing about as well.
Yeah.
Really? I'm that's totally off my radar, is Nebraska.
Yeah, well, he's running as an independent, not a Democrat.
But would he caucus with the Democrats?
We don't know.
We don't know, but we're guessing yes. I mean, Howie Klein has endorsed him at Blue America. So, yeah.
Okay, so then yes.
Yeah, the Democrats decided not to run a candidate so that this independent could
run.
It was a strategic decision by the Democrats in Nebraska.
Okay. And then we haven't mentioned Texas. And I just have to say, Texas always breaks my heart. And I am holding out hope and a lot of it for Texas, because number one, their turnout has been off the charts in their early voting, like big off the charts in big Democratic strongholds like Houston and you know, places like that. So that's number one. Number two, I don't think Kamala would win Texas, but I do think Colin Allred might.
Yeah.
Now, wouldn't
And
that be
that would be
something?
amazing.
If we could get Cruz the hell out of the Senate.
That would be amazing. And that's where I feel good about this election, because I really do feel like more Americans don't want fascism than do. I really do.
God, I hope so, because it's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
And you know, the election itself is just the first hurdle. You know, I was reading some terribly disturbing things in Wired today about you know, plans by these militias and plans by these constitutional sheriffs groups.
But you know what? Those constitutional sheriffs groups and those militias have been around forever.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
and Kamala Harris knows how, and the fact that Biden has been in power, you know, we've had the Democrats in power for the last 4 years. If we know about it, they know about it.
Right.
We know about it, but you know, there's always going to be stuff. Yeah, we know that they are planning things. We know that DOJ is on top of it. We know that the campaign is on top of it.
Right.
At the same time, you know, November 5th is not the end of the election. Declaring the winner is not the end of the election.
Right. It won't end until January 6th,
Right.
which brings me to another point about the Harris campaign, which is that next Tuesday, she's making her closing argument on the ellipse, right, in Washington, D.C., and the application for the permit said they estimated 7,500 people, but I'm guessing that that's way low. I think there's going to be...
Why does she think she's only going to have 75,000? Like, how many? What did you say?
7,500.
7,500 people? What is she, crazy?
Yeah. Well,
like,
the campaign... But I'm saying it's going to be huge. And the thing that makes me so happy is that this is confronting directly January 6th.
Yes.
This is saying, I'm taking this place back.
For the same White House backdrop that Trump had.
Yeah. And we're doing it for the people. And number one, it's going to drive Trump crazy. But that,
of course,
you know, it's going to make him
But
wild.
he doesn't live there anymore. He doesn't get to...
That's right.
He doesn't
didn't he call DC a shithole after he left and went to Florida?
Sure.
Yeah. So there's that.
Meanwhile,
I just love it. I just
of Florida, the
taking
villages,
it right to him.
Somehow the villages turned Democratic.
Or at least partially.
Partially. I think that there's more Democrats than there were, but I think there's still more Republicans in the village than there are Democrats.
What happened? I thought the villages were like straight up like...
I think the Democrats were too afraid to speak up.
Yeah, I do too. And now they're not.
They have a permission structure now.
Yeah.
So that's what our side is doing. The other side, on the other hand, is canceling appearances because he's exhausted.
Doing photo ops at McDonald's.
Right. Did the photo op at McDonald's, which still like blows me. It's like, I don't get it. Like this had to be an ego thing for him or so. I've always wanted to work at McDonald's.
No, he wanted to prove.
No, it's because Kamala Harris said that she worked at McDonald's.
Yeah, he's obsessed with the idea that she's lying about that.
I know. It's wild.
Why is she?
So he has to lie about it. He has to act like he was actually working there when he wasn't. They closed the damn place. They had fake people. They had people like pretending to come order and pretending to be surprised that Donald Trump was the one handing them their food through the window. Yeah, which was such a look at that, as if they weren't paid actors.
The whole thing was ridiculous. I mean,
I just got a message from Trump. $5 for a signed Elon Musk dark MAGA hat. That's not all $5 gets you.
Oh boy!
Oh my God! Is it just a chance at a MAGA hat, or are they really selling MAGA hats for $5?
Dark MAGA hat.
I don't know because I am not clicking on
the dark Brandon thing. They have no originality. They can't come up with anything on their own. Anything that works for us, they have to try to take it.
Yeah.
You guys, we're nearing the end of our hour.
Okay.
Can I say something totally unpolitical?
Yes.
Severance is coming back in January, and I am so thrilled. We haven't talked about TV in a while, and I am so excited that we're getting a season 2 of Severance.
Finally. It's been years.
Finally coming back in January.
We only watched it this last year.
So now you're
I feel like I need to rewatch season 1 because it's been so long, and I need to catch up, or at least find some kind of like summary of season 1.
They will give you a nice long
recap.
I mean, when shrinking started again.
I'd like to welcome Tulsi Gabbard to the Republican Party.
Oh yes.
Oh yay! Welcome, Tulsi. That's right. I forgot about that. She's been a Republican.
Don't let the Democratic door hit you in the butt on the way out.
That's right.
I know, and I'm surprised Cinema hasn't like officially become a Republican.
She's an independent. She's just going to be a lobbyist.
Yeah, she's getting what she wants.
She's using all her like campaign funds for personal travel right now, so she's having a good time.
Yeah, whatever. All right, you guys. I think that is our show for the week.
I think it is.
Next week.
Did any of us say fuck this time?
I did. I said it several times.
Oh, okay, good.
Vote. Don't boo, vote.
Fucking vote.
Don't boo, vote. Oh, let's as President Obama said,
January 6th was a day of love. Right? You're going to hear this from me. Do not boo. Vote. They can't hear you boo. They can hear your vote. That's the way to send a message.
And that's our show for the week. So join us next time on YouTube, MOMocrats.buzzsprout.com, or on your favorite podcast service such as iTunes, Google, and Amazon Music. And be sure to check our Facebook page for updates. This is Donna Schwartz Mills with Karoli and Aliza saying goodbye from MOMocrats. Bye, everybody. MOMocrats Mama Chat is part of the Demcast family of podcasts.